And we're live, Matt. We're live on TIC Council account on LinkedIn. Good morning, Matt. Thank you
Good
so much
morning, Matt.
for joining me on TIC Talks. Good morning, everyone. I assume that the audience today, most of our followers are from the quality infrastructure ecosystem, so they absolutely must know who you are, Matt. But I will introduce you anyways. Matt is the CEO of UCAS, the UK accreditation body, and more than that, involved at international level with IIF, with the European level with EA, working very closely with TIC Council. We organized successfully 2 events together, and it's always a pleasure and a joy to work with Matt, with your vision and progressive approach to accreditation. And you have a view that the building blocks of quality infrastructure need to work together, a vision that I share with you, and hope we're going to work towards realizing it in the next years. So with no further ado, I will check if I am on the page LinkedIn. It doesn't seem that I am on. But anyways, I'm here with Julia, who will let me know if there are any comments that pop up. So with no further ado, let's start. Who is Matt Gantley? Let's start with the basics. Do you mind, Matt, introducing yourself to the audience?
Yeah, I'd be delighted to do that. And Hanan, thank you very much for the very kind words. It's a pleasure. It's a delight to be here to support you, to support the TIC Council. I very much share the vision that you set out with the TIC Council, the collaborative, constructive, visionary approach that you've taken to accredited conformity assessment across many different disciplines, some of the biggest challenges and the opportunities that society faces, but also that will help to take forward the TIC industry into the new century. So I'm delighted to be here, of course. A little bit about myself. So who is Matt Gantley? That's a key question. So I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the United Kingdom Accreditation Service, UCAS for short. And as the CEO of UCAS, my primary responsibility is to lead the organization in providing accreditation and training and advisory services that deliver our purpose, which is to build trust and confidence in the products and the services that we all rely upon in society. UCAS, as you mentioned, Hanan, is the national accreditation body for the United Kingdom, recognised by the UK government to assess conformity assessment bodies that provide certification, testing, inspection, verification, validation, and calibration services. UCAS is one of the largest and most recognised and respected accreditation bodies, and it can actually trace its history back to almost 50 years. We accredit over 3,000 enterprises globally, conformity assessment bodies globally, and we employ over 350 staff in the United Kingdom and are supported by over 700 technical assessors who undertake over 37,000 assessment days per annum. My personal journey to this position has been shaped by a deep commitment to ensuring high standards and integrity in the businesses and communities ultimately that we serve. We are in the trust business, both in the UK and internationally across industry sectors. Personally, I've worked in conformity assessment for over 28 years. I started my career in management systems consulting. I co-founded a quality, environmental, and health and safety consultancy soon after graduating. I did a master's in environmental impact assessment, and that equipped me with a balanced perspective of both the technical and strategic facets of the TIC sector. Prior to joining UCAS, I held various leadership positions in related fields, particularly within conformity assessment, which has given me a comprehensive understanding of the complexities and the demands of the accredited testing, inspection, and certification landscape in the UK, in particular in Europe, China, and India. But beyond my professional role, I'm really passionate about promoting the value of accreditation and conformity assessment and its impact on public trust and safety. I'm actively involved in industry discussions and initiatives that aim to advance the TIC sector and quality infrastructure. I was also a lecturer, a strategic lecturer for the Manchester Business School on their MBA program, and I'm an active fellow of the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment. Thank you, Hanan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I know you're doing a lot for our community, Matt. I know you're so much engaged to support our community, enter actually new and emerging markets, as you mentioned. And talking about that, and with the wealth of experience that you bring along, Matt, most of the audience that's following us today, as I told you, is probably from the quality infrastructure ecosystem environment. And I think that they would be grateful to hear your views about how this ecosystem has evolved over the past years. As you mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities and challenges that we're facing. There's the emergence of new markets. So what is your recommendations as well for our ecosystem to seize these opportunities and to address these challenges in a timely fashion so we're not left behind?
Wow, some big fundamental questions there that really go to the heart of the way our industry is evolving into this new century, and how we tackle those challenges and those opportunities. I think most of the people who are going to be here today, as you rightly say, are from quality infrastructure or have some deeper understanding of how it all fits together. But for those that aren't from our background, just a very quick background into what the quality infrastructure is, and it's maybe some of the components of it, because it's not always immediately apparent how the quality infrastructure sits together, and particularly that it is or it encompasses a comprehensive system of public and private institutions that sets out a legal framework and regulatory framework of practices necessary to support and enhance the quality in the products and the services that we all rely upon, both in a national and an international basis. So the quality infrastructure aims to ensure that products and services meet specified requirements and standards, thereby facilitating trade, protecting consumers, supporting the imperatives such as sustainable development and responsible AI governance, which are some of the key themes that I'm sure we'll touch upon more as we discussed this morning. There's 5 major components of the quality infrastructure. Of course, it starts with standards, both the development and the implementation of standards. We see that through the international bodies such as ISO, International Organization for Standardization, and the International Electrotechnical Commission. But we also see other broader organizations that develop private standards. We see also now the intersection with the standards that are established by the audit and financial audit realms, which they are now overlapping, particularly with conformity assessment because of corporate sustainability disclosure. We see standards development both at an international level, regional level, and national level as well. Of course, secondly, there's metrology, scientific metrology, industrial and legal metrology. We have accreditation, such as the national accreditation bodies, and we too work on both the national, regional, and international basis, and particularly international basis through bodies such as the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation Bodies, IF and ILAC. We have fourthly, conformity assessment. Well, accreditation doesn't really work without conformity assessment and the very broad bodies of testing, inspection, and certification. It's a very big, dynamic, growing, strong industry. Some estimates are that it has a US dollar annual revenue of over 250 billion US dollars. And is expected to grow. It's expected to grow, a CAGR of over 5%. So we're part of a very strong sector. We also have the regulatory system that's a vital part of quality infrastructure, both the laws and the regulations from bodies such as the European Union or the United Kingdom, or specific requirements that come from industry bodies. And then we have the connection with market surveillance. And then lastly, this key part of the way in which quality infrastructure works is that interplay between those international bodies. I know the TIC Council in particular has taken a very significant strategic lead in cooperation with ILAC, IF, ISO, IC, and I think in particular through INET-QI, which is a collaboration of international organizations of ISO, IC, ILAC, and IF, as I've already mentioned. The TIC Council has a central role to play in supporting the quality infrastructure and seeing how that grows in the future. Hanan, you asked me a really important question. How do we see over the next 5 years or so that quality infrastructure will play a major role in supporting some of the key challenges and opportunities? Well, I see them in a number of different ways. First of all, the challenge of digital transformation and technology advancements. TIC enterprises have increasingly embraced digital technologies to enhance service delivery in their own right. For example, several TIC enterprises are focused on leveraging digital transformation opportunities by concentrating on areas such as future mobility, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, advanced analytics. Similarly, TIC enterprises have invested heavily in technology advancements, including powerful AI software systems to manage regulatory supply chain management and sustainability challenges. And that leads me into the second point is sustainability and ESG initiatives. I see that being a major part of the way quality infrastructure works in the future. There's been a notable shift in sustainability and ESG initiatives across the TIC industry, and I see that being a major part going forward. I see, of course, the expansion and the global reach of our industry. TIC companies have for many decades expanded their global footprint to meet the rising demands for testing, inspection, and certification, particularly in emerging marketplaces. And I see major TIC enterprises have reinforced their global presence by providing services on a global basis and a national and regional basis. And this global expansion has driven the need for support by their multinational clients as well. I see a continued path of service diversification. There's a broadening of service portfolios within the TIC industry: cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, testing, certification, renewable energy, new sources of energy such as hydrogen energy. We talked about ESG. There is significant opportunity for service diversification in our sector, and of course, as I finished off from my last question, it's all about strategic collaborations and partnership. I see that being a major driver. So to seize those opportunities and address those challenges that face the quality infrastructure, as you said, in a timely fashion, we can't wait for these challenges to be on top of us. We've got to address them in a very agile and innovative way. We've got to, first of all, then enhance our own digital transformation and technological integrations, leveraging those advanced technologies, AI, the Internet of Things, blockchain, to drive efficiency in our own processes, implement digital twins, digital identifiers, adopt artificial intelligence for analytics, data analytics, presenting analytics in a better way, integrating and operability of the TIC industry. We need to strengthen cybersecurity measures in our own right, because many of us are global organizations. We're exposed to the risks of cybersecurity. To have the protocols in place. We've got to promote collaboration across QI. We've got to focus on sustainability and ESG initiatives. We've got to support regulatory frameworks and market surveillance, particularly some big initiatives that we see coming through the EU AI Act. We've got to invest in capacity building and skills development. We're both personally passionate about that issue. We know that TIC Council is doing a lot of work on capacity building and skills development to support our growth of our sector. And I think as well, we've got to enhance consumer awareness and advocacy and engagement across society, as well as regulatory bodies, and what our role is, because we talk passionately about quality infrastructure, but how well known is it outside our sector?
Absolutely.
And lastly, and you've seen this through the pandemic, is about adopting agile and resilient practices. How do we ensure that we can provide that framework on a global, scalable basis, addressing the challenges of artificial intelligence, ESG, sustainability, cyber resilience? We've got to make sure that we ourselves have those resilient, scalable practices as an infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Matt. I mean, this shows the breadth of your knowledge and the beauty of the vision that you have of our quality infrastructure ecosystem. Thank you so much for taking a deep dive and explaining what the quality infrastructure is and pinpointing very rightfully those challenges and opportunities, and we will take a dive into some of those topics in a minute. But I would be grateful if you could just again take a deep dive, if you want, at one of the building blocks of the quality infrastructure, which is accreditation, given your role, and also given that we'll be soon celebrating the World Accreditation Day. Please just explain a little bit the importance of accreditation, and specifically talking about consumers and the lack of their understanding of the whole quality infrastructure. How important, what are the benefits does accreditation have for consumers and policymakers?
Thank you. So, well, actually, first of all, as you mentioned, World Accreditation Day is celebrated on June the 9th this year. It's a global initiative. It was established by IF and ILAC in collaboration to highlight the importance of accredited conformity assessment. And this year's theme is actually very broad, is accreditation, empowering tomorrow and shaping the future. As we've already talked about earlier on in this podcast and webinar, focusing on how accreditation and conformity assessment, testing, inspection, and certification can support various aspects of life in a rapidly changing world influenced by digitalization, new technologies, and sustainability concerns. To the point about the benefit of accredited conformity assessment, well, it is essential into aspects of ensuring quality, safety, compliance across various different industry sectors. There are approximately around 95 accreditation bodies worldwide, which are members of IF and ILAC, and these bodies play that crucial role, as mentioned, within that global quality infrastructure by ensuring that conformity assessment bodies meet international standards for competence, reliability, and impartiality. Some of the themes of the World Accreditation Day this year will be on technology and innovation, sustainability, security, and inclusivity. There's going to be a number of different virtual events, educational materials, so watch out for all of that stuff that's coming out. There's also going to be an emphasis on connection with accreditation conformity assessment with the Sustainable Development, UN Development Sustainability Goals, for example, of industry, innovation, and infrastructure. You mentioned about why accreditation or accredited conformity assessment is vital. Well, there's the obvious point of it's about quality assurance, obviously within supply chains, global resilient supply chains, risk management supply chains. But it's also about global recognition. Accreditation fosters international trade by ensuring that products and services meet global standards, thereby reducing technical barriers to trade. And that's one of my, I guess, fears for the future, is that fragmentation of standards, fragmentation of approaches to conformity assessment and standard that undermines that global recognition, that fundamental and laudable aim of tested once, accepted everywhere. Accreditation also supports consumer confidence and, crucially, regulatory compliance. It supports regulatory bodies, ensuring that conformity assessment bodies and I've mentioned already about the benefits of consumers, safety, reliability, consumer protection, informed choices. The TIC Council has done some amazing work here on promoting the risks of non-accredited conformity assessment and how that can lead to a detriment in choices for consumers and detriment to consumer safety. And I do applaud the work that the TIC Council has done, in particular in advocating for the adoption of testing, inspection, and certification to policymakers, because it does enhance compliance, economic growth, public safety, and sustainable development goals, just to mention some of those key points.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Always spot on, and talking about indeed raising awareness and informing the public and the policymakers about the critical contribution that indeed accredited conformity assessment can bring. We have collaborated, TIC Council and UCAS, on 2 events this year, and that was fantastic. And we delved into one of those topics that you mentioned earlier with regards to the challenges and the opportunities, and that is AI. So we held held our AI summit jointly in London at the Mansion House, whereby we've agreed to an accord that is the Walbrook Accord. And you've been also our partner in the TIC Summit in Brussels this year with the same topic. So what were your main takeaways from these discussions, Matt?
Thank you, Hanan. Yeah, so the AI summits that we held. Well, first of all, the AI summit that we held in March in Mansion House in London, and the next major step, the TIC summit in Brussels earlier this year, focused on critical intersections of artificial intelligence with quality infrastructure and governance. There were many takeaways, and it was very valuable discussions for the quality infrastructure partners to come together. It was a delight to be there as a partner for the TIC Council in the visionary aspects you have of bringing together quality infrastructure. So there's lots of takeaways, but I'd say there's probably 6 major points that we now want to take away in working with our partner bodies, other accreditation bodies, conformity assessment bodies, and especially with the TIC Council. And that is, first of all, is ethical development and governance for AI. There was a strong emphasis on ethical deployment, governance, and adoption of AI solutions across the TIC industry. And our summits highlighted the need for a framework that ensures that those technologies are developed and deployed ethically and transparently. This includes continuous monitoring mechanisms to maintain reliability and fairness of AI systems throughout the life cycles from development to deployment. And we already have the tools, the frameworks to be able to do that. We talked in the summits about ISO 42001, the management system standard that's been developed, was published last year, and now is in the process of being rolled out. We heard very proudly about the certification bodies such as SGS, who've now already started that process of certification. And we see that being a major growth area for the TIC sector, and a valuable part of regulatory recognition, both in the EU, in the UK, and across the world. We see the role of quality infrastructure being vital. I think that's the second key point to take away, and we must advocate for that. Our speakers and guests noted that accredited TIC services are key to ensuring that AI products meet the highest standards of safety and performance. So it's essential that we get those standards and methodologies for testing and certification. We need to ensure that there is regulatory and voluntary assurance, because we've had many decades of demonstrating across many fields, from sustainability to forensics to food safety to contaminated land. We've demonstrated in the TIC industry that we can provide appropriate levels of assurance on a voluntary basis, supply chain driven basis, on a national and international basis, but also to support regulatory systems. We need to continue to advocate for that dual approach. We will collaborate globally, particularly on the point I mentioned before about mutual recognition. It's on all of our advantages, but we set up a system that is there is interoperability of the standards, interoperability and recognition of the conformity assessment, so we get that principle of tested or certified once, recognized across the world. It's vital for standards such as ISO 42001, because you don't want an enterprise in France, for example, being certified for its activities and then having to redo that certification in other countries around the world. That's a duplication of cost, and it's no benefit to consumers or to regulators or to industry. And we've got to support innovation, and we've got to take that future outlook for continuous improvement. And as you've already highlighted many times, Hanan, it's about building scalable capacity, and that's I'd say was the last key takeaway that we want to develop. So we've established the Walbrook Accord. It's a very light touch accord. It doesn't bind in a formal way, but is an invitation to a conversation and collaboration. We're focusing on 3 key aims within the Walbrook Accord under the very kind sponsorship of the Lord Mayor of the City of London, Professor Michael Manelli. Those 3 key imperatives are advocating for the adoption of quality assurance, quality infrastructure and AI assurance, developing assurance standards and techniques, and the training and skills development for AI assurance practitioners and also members of our profession.
Yeah, and talking about that, Matt, we see, so we've set up these three objectives in the Walbrook Accord, but when we look at the trends in policy making around AI, you have two approaches, either the preventive regulation as in the case of the EU, and then you have the principle-based cooperation as in the case of the UK and G7 countries. What is how do we reconcile these two approaches with our three objectives, and how do you see the role of the quality infrastructure ecosystem in these two approaches?
Yeah, I think this is one of the risks that we face, and it isn't just the quality infrastructure bodies that are raising this challenges. There is now a potential for significant fragmentation in the approaches to governance or responsible AI adoption. If there is that fragmentation, that makes it much more difficult for the developers and those bodies implementing or adopting AI that can hold back the benefits that AI adopts, and then creates problems for arbitrage or leverage of those differences between different regulatory bodies and principles. So we would always advocate for that interoperability. What we see in the EU, first of all, within the EU AI Act, which is a forerunner to, in many ways, is setting the approach for the rest of the world. It's a much more prescriptive approach. The EU is classifying AI systems into different risk categories: unacceptable, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk. It also is taking that risk-based approach to focusing on those applications, especially in healthcare, transportation, law enforcement, for example. And it's also set out ethical guidelines in the way that AI should be adopted. In a way that we would very much welcome. It does set a role for the TIC sector, particularly in compliance assessment, testing, and the certification of products. An opportunity for the referencing to testing and certification standards such as 42001, and then a link back to standardization, particularly through CEN-ELEC, which we would welcome. We see in the UK a different approach. The UK has adopted a more flexible pro-innovation approach. Rather than a comprehensive AI Act, it focuses more on sector-specific guidelines and frameworks. And the UK is going to use regulatory sandboxes to test new AI technologies within a controlled environment, allowing innovators to experiment and ensure appropriate regulatory compliance. But equally, there's a very strong role for the sector in supporting regulatory compliance framework by offering customized testing and certification services to cater for those different needs of different regulators and different sectors. So I see a strong approach, but for a strong role for the TIC sector in many different regulatory approaches. But we would always advocate for that mutual recognition process and interoperability of standards and conformity assessment in particular.
Matt, in your long and impressive career, did you come across a previous similar challenge that the quality infrastructure ecosystem helped resolve to society? And do you see any lessons that we can learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, there's been many. The tech sector in various different guises in its evolution from the very beginning of the Industrial Revolution, from the TÜV bodies we've seen in Germany, or the British Standards Institute that we've seen in the United Kingdom. We have been supporting industrial innovation, from pressure vessels and steam engines to railway lines. And across many decades, we've been supporting societal development. More recently, we've seen food safety scandals. Actually, I was reminded by the horse meat scandal we've seen in Europe. Personal experiences of that back in 2013, where the quality infrastructure sector work together vitally to ensure that there is appropriate testing and certification, supporting regulators with inspection and compliance and speciation, looking very closely at the way that there was that contamination within food supply chains, often very complex food supply chains, and then adopting through evolution appropriate standards to bring more rigor into global food supply chains in the future. And we've seen, of course, the development of global food safety initiatives, the GFSI initiatives, bringing a much more consistent approach, interoperability of food safety standards, and such, for example, the development of ISO 22000 as a model. So there are many challenges that we could, highlight like that. Actually, just the pandemic. Just a few years ago, we seen some of those challenges where we needed to work together as a quality infrastructure to restore consumer confidence, to improve supply chain integrity, to ensure that we supported policy and regulatory challenges. And we acted with agility to ensuring that there was the PPE was tested and certified, that the infrastructure and the capacity to deliver at scale was as available. So there's many different examples. I think particularly the pandemic as well is a great example of that agility, flexibility, adopting to remote approaches. Collaboration is key, advocacy, scalability, and actually preparedness for the future. And we have to take that forward for what we see now with sustainability and ESG and AI in the future. We've got to be prepared and resilient for the future.
Absolutely. And Matt, we're coming to the end of our session. We're a bit above time, so just one last question. If you had a magic wand, what aspect of the quality infrastructure ecosystem would you change, Matt?
There's many things I'd like to change, but if I had to really focus on one area, and that it would be global harmonization and interoperability. One of the most laudable aims that we have as an accredited testing, inspection, and certification industry is that interoperability is tested once, accepted everywhere, and we want to ensure that we strengthen that. So firstly, the challenges we face, I think, currently is fragmentation, duplication of effort, and sometimes inconsistent quality delivery, and that affects supply chains, affects complexity of supply chains, affects products and services, and that's only going to be detrimental to society, to consumers, to regulators, to business and trade and our economies. And so, my magic wand would really be all about global harmonization and interoperability, unified approaches, working together collaboratively between international standards bodies, ISO, IEC, but also sustainability bodies such as ISEAL with a range of sustainability schemes, working closely with IESBA on the International Ethics Standards Board for those ethics standards in sustainability, with the International Sustainability Standards Board with audit firms. Mutual recognition agreements, making sure that works effectively. I'd also advocate for that continuing harmonization by looking for integration of digital identifiers on a digital approach, and capacity building and support. So I think I said one thing, but I probably said about several things. But interoperability is the key.
Here, Matt, absolutely. And we do share your vision and aspiration in terms of harmonization, interoperability. So it allows us as an ecosystem to play our role of an enabler. So thank you so much. I'm delighted to have you as a partner to work with Matt for sharing your insights and deep knowledge with us. And I look very much forward to our next event together. And big thanks to our followers, wherever they are around the world. And see you in our next TIC Talks. Thank you. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, listeners. Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.